Hey there, little heads up before the show starts. No sexual assault warning this time. Instead, a AT&T warning. My internet is really bad in this episode. I just moved to a new house, so I'm trying out kind of where things worked. Apparently, I picked a really poor spot because the internet is just not cooperating with us during this episode, as well as the next episode when we talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. So hopefully you forgive us for that. Next week it'll be all cleared up. And yeah, sorry about that. Thanks. Bye. All right, choo choo, motherfucker. Welcome to the goddamn show. Oh, I'm gonna curse a lot because it has been a fucking hell of a week. So for those that have not listened to the last week's episode, that was recorded in the future. You and I have not spoken since we recorded that episode, which was almost a month ago now.
It's been almost a month.
It's been a busy fucking month. So I bought a
Yeah.
house. Those that have been listening to the episodes, y'all have been keeping up with that. Yeah, I bought a house. Well, time to move came during Christmas, and that brought a lot of challenges.
Mhm.
Just finished. Today is what is today? December 30th.
30th, yeah.
We just finished moving today. Yeah, we started
Whew.
December 22nd. So we spent 8 days of moving, pausing only for Christmas, trying desperately to get it done before New Year's because our last day in our apartment was December 31st. So
Mm.
I still have to go over tomorrow and finish cleaning it. So not technically done, but everything that we own is moved out of the old place. So
That's a big part of the battle.
yeah. And it has been a fucking journey, man. Like so
Uh-huh.
the day we moved in, um, we get here and nothing works. Like all our like gas is turned off, everything's turned off. Well, we've told them to transfer it over from our apartment to where we're moving.
Hmm.
Well, what they didn't tell us is that in order to complete that transfer, someone needed to be at the house during a certain
Uh,
time period. No one told us the time period. So they showed up at like Thursday at 4 o'clock. We were at work, so
oh, yep.
couldn't be there for that. Thankfully, they were very understanding and they sent someone over and they were over here within like 2 hours. So we had
Yeah.
gas powered, everything turned on.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's really accommodating. You don't, I
Well,
was not expecting you to say that.
it only lasted for 2 days because two
Oh,
days after that, down the street, they're doing major construction. So
mm,
they didn't, but we just moved in. So I guess whoever lived here before, or if there was any kind of notification that they were going to do anything, we
yeah.
weren't told. We woke up one day, go to brush my teeth. There's no water in the house. I'm like, what the
Oh,
fuck?
no.
So come to find out, well, all the water in the entire neighborhood had been shut off for like a couple hours. So
Hmm.
that happens. Yesterday, a freaking monsoon happened in Memphis. It like
Uh-huh.
we got like fucking felt like 30 inches of rain or some shit. Like I was in the middle of moving, almost done. It's like
Mm.
2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it starts raining, and it doesn't stop raining until 6 a.m. And it flooded everywhere. Like everywhere was flooded. It was crazy. It was just there were people that had to get rescued. So yeah, it has been a challenge in a different way to get here.
Mhm.
I'm in a different recording studio. My last one was my little spare room in my two-bedroom apartment. Now
Mhm.
I am in my attic, and
Ooh.
so if I sound a little bit more echoous, I am sorry about that. I'm also not currently on a desk. I am sitting on a old entertainment center that the
Mm.
people our previous owner left behind. I have
Oh,
turned
hey.
that into a bench that I am sitting next to, and is also where my computer is. And my monitor is next to my computer. And my I am holding, or I was holding the keyboard to use it, and
Wow.
was trying my best to navigate without a mouse, which involved using a
Uh,
lot of tabs.
yep.
So I was glad I remembered that from basic keyboarding back in 1996.
Oh Lord.
So yeah, it has been a journey. And
Yeah.
another frustrating thing. So I keep notes when I watch these movies, and I have them all in like a little notebook that I have. And then on the front of it, it says "Welcome to the End of the World" podcast. It has a little picture of a cat hanging on to a piece of to a branch, about to fall to
No.
its demise, and it just says "Hang in there."
Mm-mm.
That's my notebook. I cannot find it, so that's where all my notes are. So when I watched the movie we're talking about tonight, I watched this movie like 2 weeks ago, and I had all my
Mhm.
research, all my notes, because this movie has a lot of stuff you can say about it,
Oh
and
yeah.
all of that was lost.
Oh man.
So I have not found it yet. It's in a box somewhere around here.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations where like I put it into a very specific box and being like, okay, I need these for the show, so I'm gonna put these here, and then that way, I can find it easily.
Hmm.
And then so many things have transpired. I forgot what box I put it in, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't remember anymore. It's somewhere in the ether. Oh Lord.
They
And
usually have
then
this like, I'm gonna put it here and I'm gonna remember and cut
yeah,
to.
yeah. And then the internet. Oh boy. Lord
Uh-huh.
have mercy. So were supposed to record a couple of days ago, when we were supposed to record a few days before that, and it has been a nonstop problem with the internet here.
Hmm.
So I transferred my service over from where I had my other place to here, mostly just because of ease of access. They're never going to sponsor us, and even if they did, I wouldn't let them because I think they're a terrible company. Just gonna say it.
Yeah.
AT and fucking T. I had their service at the previous location, and due to just laziness, I just transferred it over, right? It's like, okay, I'm
Right.
moving, just transfer my service over. Okay. Thus began the Odyssey. All right,
Hmm.
Christopher Nolan is going to, apparently his next movie project is Homer's The Odyssey.
Well, I didn't know
And
that.
I hope he takes like a Joycean approach to it, and like takes it and like makes it about some like benign, like, mini, task that everyone has to go through. And
Hmm.
because this was a fucking Odyssey.
Yeah.
So I contact AT&T and I tell them I want to transfer my service. They tell me, okie dokie pokey, you got it. We're transferring it. Drop off your box. Cool. No problems. Get an email like an hour later. Says, hey, we can't do that anymore. Sorry.
Oh.
You gotta call us back. Call them back. And they're like, okay, so the problem is that your router is out of date. So we don't want it back. You could just take it. We don't give a shit. But we got to send you a fiber box in the mail, and you don't have to pay your AT&T bill for the next few months.
Oh.
And we're going to give you a discount off of your bill for the next few months. I was like,
Hmm.
okay, you're throwing a lot of free stuff at me, so there's going to be some kind of catch. So
Hmm.
catch hadn't happened yet. Well, they send me the box. I get the box. Then they're supposed to shut off my service at the old place on a certain day. They decide to just shut it off on whatever day they fucking chose.
Mm.
So one day the internet just stops working. So I get to the new place and I open the box, and the box has very easy instructions. It's like 4 steps. Step one is like plug the cords into the fiber box. Step two,
Hmm.
plug the box into the wall. Step three, hit the button. Done, right? It's pretty
Right.
simple. Well, step one doesn't work for me because the outlet, like the port that I'm supposed to
Hmm.
plug the fiber cord into, that has been ripped off of the wall.
Oh no.
Okay, you would think that that's a simple thing to fix, right?
Mm.
Conveying this information to customer service was an
Mm.
interesting experience. So I
I
called
believe it.
them, called customer service, waited to talk to a human, finally talked to a human. The guy's like, oh, you need tech support. He transferred me to tech support. Tech support listens to me for about 15 seconds and says, we don't do anything with fiber. You got to talk to the people. Here's the number. He gives me the
Whoa.
number. The number he gave me is the same number that I was just talking to that transferred me to tech support. I
Wow.
go I go through this process a few more times of calling, getting transferred to tech support telling me we can't help you, changing me back to the people who just going in a circle.
Yeah.
to the point where my wife is watching this happen next to me, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, we could just cancel the service right now. Like I literally was like, if this doesn't get resolved in the next hour, then the next time someone talks to me, I'm not going to ask them for help setting up my internet. I'm going to instead say, like, I would like to cancel my service
Right.
and just like move on from this because this is fucking ridiculous.
Hmm.
Finally, I get to somebody who understands what the problem is. That like it's not that I'm a fucking idiot who doesn't understand how to plug something into the wall. Because they keep telling me like, well, your house is set up for fiber, and I'm like, no, I understand that it is. There is an outlet. I can see it. I can read, believe it or not, right? And I understand the simple steps of take cord, plug cord into wall, right? Right? I get that. I get
Yeah.
it. What I'm telling you is that what's attached to the wall ain't fucking there, right? Explaining it in the most simplistic terms. All right, what sent you to tech support? Tech support sends me back. I'm like, God damn it, this is like felt like that was in a fucking Kafka write in like novel.
Mm-mm-mm.
It was fucking insane. Finally, though, Kareem was his name. He helped me, and he
Mhm.
sent in a ticket. Ticket came. They got my internet set up. The guy came out, and he was like, the tech finally came out, and he was like, "What's the problem?" And I showed him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that'll take like 10 seconds." And he fixed it, and he was done in like 10 seconds, and that was it. And I was like, "This is it." It just didn't need to be that difficult, I don't think, right? Just-
Right.
so that was a fun end to the moving experience. But we are now, like I said at the beginning, everything that we owned is everything we owned. Everything we own is here, and
Mhm.
never. It's all in boxes and in various states of unpacking. But
Right.
it is all out now. I just gotta give it a good sweep in, and that'll be that tomorrow. So.
Yeah.
Tonight, though, we're going to talk about Snowpiercer. So enough about the move. How I guess I should ask you how your week's been. I haven't really talked to you much since I've been very,
Yeah.
very busy.
Well,
How have you been
yeah.
for the last few weeks?
It's been a lot less hectic than that. There's still
Thank
it's been
God.
eventful. Yeah, there's still things that have been happening. I did want to just like there were so many times I was tempted to text you and just be like, "Hey, how's the move going?" But I was like, I didn't want to just come on here and be like, "Yeah, no, like you told me," you know. I feel like that would sound awful. So I wanted to wait and make it more organic for this. But I will say one thing that did happen. There's some down news here.
Yeah.
My
All right.
uncle did pass the day before Christmas Eve, so
Oh wow, that
that's
sucks, man.
yeah, that's rough. So that's
Yeah.
going to be happening this like the day after. I think Friday that
Uh-huh.
funeral is going to be going down. So
Yeah.
that's
Well,
something.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, it's no, I wasn't the most close to him or anything like that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, when I was a kid, he was around, so
Yeah.
um, it was real sad, but
Yeah.
um,
It's weird how that stuff hits different with like people. I've had
yeah,
uncles and cousins and nephews that I wasn't particularly close to that I've lost, and then it's just like, huh, like you kind of have like a weird thing of like,
yeah,
I don't know, like profound introspection or something. I don't know. It's kind of
yeah.
weird.
Well,
Yeah.
and here's another one that's kind of crazy because there was another one that, but this one wasn't close to me at all.
Is
But
Jimmy Carter?
I close. Well,
R.I.P.
closer than
Jimmy.
that. Oh yeah, R.I.P. Jimmy, man. We lost one of the good ones.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Shit. Yeah, I did.
like for real, like
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Just
genuine.
a genuinely pretty good guy for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
It's hard to
like
meet people who have something negative to say about Jimmy Carter.
he's right.
Yeah. But go ahead,
But
finish.
well, I was gonna say, do you remember? Well, because I don't look at Facebook ever. Like I still have it, and it still sends me notifications, and I just don't pay attention.
Yeah.
Um, the I
I
did.
got off of Facebook like 6 years ago. Best decision I
Yes,
ever
yeah.
made.
I should have made that.
Have not looked at it since. So yeah, go
I
ahead.
should have made that move because for the most part, it just annoys me whenever I see it. I'm like, just
Hmm.
get rid of the notification. But this time, I just happened to like the what was on the notification caught my attention because that where I did that play that one time
Yeah.
that you went to see.
Playhouse. Permian Playhouse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're shutting down, and
Oh, that's a
yeah,
heartbreaker.
it is. But we've known that one for a while.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. It's
they
community led, community driven.
Yeah, and I
That
think they're all
sucks.
going to Midland now, so which whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah. That's where the
but
money's always been.
She really, oh no, it is. And the they'd like done a post, and it was basically saying like, we're, sad to announce that we lost, and I didn't see the rest of it. I was like, well, I gotta see what that means. And it ended up being, so you remember in that play, because it was somebody that was in that play that passed. It
Hmm.
was, and I'm not going to get like any specific at all, but I'll just say this. Do you remember like the little boy that played in that, like where he sang, like he was the main
Yeah,
singing kid?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah. Well, he was like 22 now, but
yeah, yeah.
um he ended up, like, the way his mother put it was going out on his own terms.
All
That,
right.
yeah, you want to talk about, I
Unaliving
because
himself, as YouTube
he
puts it.
he
Uh-oh.
he he did, and it was not a spur of the moment thing. It turns out this kid had like made a public post about like this full like letter. I read the whole thing. It was kind of, I don't want to say disturbing, but stirring, I guess would be the thing. Like
Yeah.
I was confused, and like it was not like, he was not, it was like planned for years, like
Yeah.
basically, and many failed attempts, and
Hmm.
just spoken about like it was just, oh man, I dropped a thing, but
Hmm.
but I guess, that's, I guess that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like there was just, he couldn't find comfort out of life. So
Hmm.
that was hard to wrap my head around. I'm still kind of messing with that. Like it's still messing with my head a little, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I had a student. I'm a, like I said, a teacher, and I've been doing it
Mhm.
for almost 10 years. And each year I've have about like 120 students or so. So
Mhm.
to this point, I've taught like over 1,000 kids,
Dang.
and hard to keep up with that many, at this point. I
Well,
don't know what
yeah.
all of them are doing, but a few years ago, one of them committed suicide. I'm
Mhm.
just gonna say the word. I'm
Right.
sorry, sorry, YouTube. You can demonetize me. We don't make any money from this.
I was about to
Um,
say.
you're taking away the nothing. Um, yeah, I believe I'm trying to remember. I remember his name. I don't want to say it,
Well,
because I
no,
don't
no,
want,
not at all.
yeah, yeah, I don't want to get all personal about it, but anything. But he was a student that I taught, and he decided to end his life by using going into the train tracks. And
Oh,
that's kind of if you've ever been to West Texas, specifically Odessa and Midland, they're not like most cities where the trains are outside of the town. Train tracks in
no.
Odessa and Midland kind of go like right through the middle of the city.
I used to work at a lumber yard that
Yeah, you
the
could get
train
like
tracks
right up
just went
next to them.
straight through.
Yeah, I was
Mhm.
gonna say you can reach your hand out and touch them.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, it was very normal to when I was a kid, especially growing up in the 90s when there was a lot less, protection. It was a very
Mhm.
normal thing to jump the rail yard fence and go play in the rail yards. And
Mhm.
that was just the thing kids did back then. This was not a thing that this was in the 2000s, I was
Yeah.
already in my late 20s when this happened. But yeah, it was one of those situations where it just kind of it threw me off for a while where I was just like, wow, I knew that guy. I knew like this happened years after I taught him. So he had already come of
Mhm.
age. He was, I think, 19, 20 when he did this. But
Mhm.
I knew him when he was a 10th grader. So I knew him when he was like 16.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of one of those things where it was like, wow, I can't like all I can help see is like him as that 16-year-old and like seeing
Mhm.
him in school and like the little quirks and things that like spending, a year seeing him every day for a year almost
Mhm.
kind of, burns into my mind.
Yeah.
Um, and that was one of
Well,
those ones. Like
yeah.
I've had other students that I have died in like car wrecks and
Mhm.
things like that, cancer, things of that sort. But that
Yeah.
one, as far as I know, that's the only suicide
Mhm.
that I've ever been informed of a student that I've taught. That kind of really took me back for a while. That
Yeah.
it's still one of those things that I
Well,
think about from time to time, where I'm just like, yeah, wow, I knew
because when you
I taught a
see,
student too, that happened
yeah,
to.
because like when you see these kids, you think of them as like, that's, that's like the next step. That's the next generation. That's the next thing.
Yeah,
And then they just, make that decision for whatever reason.
yeah,
Um, and they just, you know,
Yeah,
not we end up outliving them, and it's not
it's
how it's
weird.
supposed to work,
Yeah,
so
it's kind of reverse. I
yeah.
empathize. I've
Oh,
definitely
absolutely.
felt that before. I've been there,
Yeah.
gotten close to that situation before. So I
Hmm.
don't know how we transitioned from that to anything else. So this might be
Well,
where I put
speaking
a
of
this might be where I put
people,
a break in
well, I
before we
was gonna
talk
say
about the
we could.
movie.
I was
Go
gonna say
ahead.
if this works,
Welcome
because
back. We're going to talk about Snowpiercer now.
Snowpiercer.
Something a little bit more, hopefully, we like to say uplifting, but a lot of horrible shit happens in this movie.
Yeah.
Um, as I call this movie, metaphor, the movie, because that's basically what this movie is. It is a giant
Hmm.
walking, talking allegory
You
coming
can
out
even
on.
say rolling. Uh, it's on.
Mhm.
It's chugging.
Chugging along.
I'm
Yep,
trying to do train. I don't know enough about trains.
that's fair. Yep, yeah. Well, neither do I. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna
Uh,
say.
so this came out on July 11th of 2014, and
Hmm.
it was directed by Bong Joon. Is it Bong Joon Ho? How did you say
Bong
it
Joon
earlier?
Ho. Yeah,
Bong
Bong
Joon
Joon
Ho.
Ho.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Movie is he was he's an Oscar-winning director. He
Oh
directed
yeah.
Parasite, The Host, Mother. His movies
Hmm.
are known for their tonal shifts.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing you'll see in this movie a lot, where all of a sudden you get some comedy kind of coming in places that
Hmm.
you weren't expecting. And they're also known to be like social commentaries. Dude
Yeah,
has
absolutely.
some things to say. And so, similar to like Michael Bay in only one way, this is the only way he's similar to Michael Bay
Hmm.
in the movies that we've talked about, is that he is an auteur, right? He
Yeah.
is coming at these movies with an artistic lens to style to say something. So
Hmm. Well,
that is the only way he's connected to Michael Bay, I believe.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say if we can really separate him completely from Michael Bay, do you know a little bit about his background, a little bit about his history? He was because like South Korea was going through a lot of like I guess political turmoil and stuff like that, so they were dealing with a lot of like
Still are right now.
still are, yeah. So actually, yeah, that is still a thing. So they, he was very much, he's been arrested for activism and like protesting and things like that. So
Hmm.
he
Hmm.
very much has something to say about political upheaval and things like that.
Yeah,
So
and I feel
and
like
protesting and rising up. So he's got a
yeah,
lot, yeah.
I feel like this movie is maybe his most like on the nose
Hmm.
when it comes to his social commentary.
Right.
This movie is very easy to read the social commentary that he is laying down. I don't know how you could read it as being anything other than that. I think you could maybe enjoy it as just like a regular like action movie, but I just feel
Yeah.
like you're not going to. I feel like you're gonna want,
No.
you're gonna miss a lot if you're going into it like that. This movie, if as we said in the beginning, excuse me, I lost all my notes,
Hmm.
so I did not write down how much this movie they spent to make it. Um,
Oh, that part I
Nor
didn't
did I
look that
write
up either.
down how much it made. I do know, however, that it was a box office. It did eventually make money over time, right?
Hmm.
But I believe when it first came out, it did struggle a little bit. At least the producer of it was the Weinstein Company, who we'll talk more about here in a moment when we get into the
Yeah.
background of it, because they had a lot of their fingers in this little production here.
Yeah.
They had a lot of things they were trying to do, things and things and things and things.
Yeah.
So he also was the co-writer of this movie. He This is based off of a French, is it? I believe it's French, right?
Yeah, it was a
Comic book.
French comic book, graphic novel,
Yeah,
one of those. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, eventually was turned into a TV show that we'll talk about here in a little bit, and
Mhm.
there was actually a sequel to this Snowpiercer. This particular movie has its end is completed, finished in a comic book of Snowpiercer that came out after the movie did.
Oh, I think I did find that out.
Yeah, yeah. So the movie,
Yeah.
I did not have a chance to read that yet. If I had
No.
more time and wasn't moving, I totally would have looked up the comic books. I've actually been looking online to buy them because,
Mhm.
spoiler alert, I really like this fucking movie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's
It
such a
was really, it was a
good.
good movie. It was a really good movie.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I was kinda
uh,
shocked when you told me you hadn't seen it before.
yeah, I hadn't seen it before. So I had watched the TV show,
Right.
but for the longest time, I could not find the DVD. And it was one of those movies that like I always kind of wanted to like wait and buy it and then watch it.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, so kind of, kind of took my time to find it and
Hmm.
finally had it. I actually owned it for a while before I watched it. It's one of those ones that I bought and eventually we'll talk about the background of this podcast and how we came to do this, but this was not, so I had this idea for this podcast like almost what, 5 years ago. It was a while before we
Yeah.
actually got started. We actually recorded episode 1 forever ago.
Oh, that's
And
right.
do you even remember what we talked about in episode 1? And
No,
this is
no clue.
it was Cormac McCarthy's The Road.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, we
Well, yeah,
talked
because
about a
that's
book for episode 1.
yeah, because that
Originally, it
was
was going to be
the one that I
post-apocalyptic books and not movies.
yes.
And I was going
Well,
to
I
show
did end
off
up
my
reading
English
that book.
degree. Yeah, so did I. Yeah, yeah. It's a good book.
Yeah, it was a very good book.
Yeah, Cormac McCarthy's been in the news for not good things recently.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He might be a little bit of him, but he's dead. He was, so I
Ah,
can't say allegedly. The woman he did it with has come out and said it, so I'm guessing it's confirmed. He was kind of a child molester.
oh
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
I own a lot of Cormac McCarthy books, so I
yeah.
referenced
But
him
I
in my
mean,
master's thesis several
it's kind of
times.
that whole death of the author thing. You gotta. Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 yeah. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I grew up in the
Yeah, because we ended
Southwest.
up.
He's kind of a big fucking deal, right?
Really, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and since we did start to do the book thing, I do remember now. I ended up reading The Postman,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
We were going to
I
do that one
also
next.
really
That was going to be
liked.
our second episode.
Yeah, that's right. We were gonna do
Instead,
that.
I lost my job, got a new job, lost that job, got another job, and
Yeah.
then we started again 4 years later doing movies, and episode 2 became Crash and Burn instead. So there you go. Long
Yeah.
story short.
Hey, but it's a lot faster to get through a movie though. So
It takes a lot
yeah.
less time. Yeah. It's a lot less time commitment. I don't have as much
Yep.
time as I did when I was unemployed to sit
Yeah,
around.
really, no.
Yeah. So, the actual co-writer of this movie, also, it was another one of those things where I wrote down the name, lost
Mhm.
it, but I don't remember the co-writer's name. But the co-writer of this movie, along with the director, who was the co-writer, he also wrote Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, which is a
Yes.
fantastic movie with Philip Seymour
Yes.
Hoffman and Ethan Hawke.
It's a very good movie. And
It's an amazing
Marissa
movie.
Tomei,
Mr. Tomei, yes, yes, yeah. Yeah.
and she is
One of Philip Seymour Hoffman's best movies.
oh, it's
He
so
is
good.
absolutely amazing in it. He is not in this movie. Let's talk about who is, though,
Oh
because
yeah.
a lot of these characters have a connection, and I'll see if you can find the connection as we go through them.
Mm.
So our main lead is Chris Evans,
Yes.
who originally the director was against casting because he at the time was Captain America already. So he had bulked up
Oh, okay.
considerably for his Captain America role, and the director's original thought was that it wouldn't make sense for someone that like muscular to be portrayed as being like a third class passenger who barely
Yeah,
eats any food.
that makes sense.
If he's looking like a brick shit house. I will say they do a good job in the movie with the makeup and everything, kind of hiding the fact that he is
Yeah.
that muscular. Um, because
Yeah,
a
because I
couple
didn't
years after
really
this, he would film that scene of I forget which Captain America it is, but the one where he like pulls the helicopter in with his bare hands and like
oh
holds it in,
yeah.
and it just shows off how fucking jacked he is. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's steroids, I think. I don't know, rumors, but
Good
yeah.
album.
So it's same exactly.
Yeah.
Same actor here portraying a much different role, right? Supposed to be a meek man who barely eats food.
Hmm.
Do you have a favorite Chris Evans movie?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think my intro to Chris Evans was Not Another Teen Movie.
I was literally about to say not another teen movie is maybe my favorite Chris Evans movie.
Yeah, because I mean, it was like before they just became, I don't know, like like an annoyance factory of these kind of movies, these spoof movies.
Oh yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
just god awful, unwatchable nowadays,
Yeah, yeah, they're
or for the
terrible.
past like 10
Terrible.
years. But
Terrible movies.
not another teen movie. Like it's still held on to what makes a spoof movie good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
In
so
order
yeah,
to
that's
make a spoof movie, you kind of have to like have a little bit more than just like you have to kind of love what you're making fun of.
absolutely.
You have to have like an actual genuine appreciation for like teen movies. And I feel like
Hmm.
that movie had a genuine appreciation for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love Not Another Teen Movie. It's a fun movie. It's
It's
a fun time.
such a fun movie.
It's a good tip.
I
So
don't
yeah.
want your wife.
uh, also in this movie is Tilda Swinton, who
Yes,
is an amazing actress, Oscar winner as
phenomenal.
well.
Yep.
My favorite movie with her is Michael Clayton. She is amazing in that
Okay.
movie. That is an amazing movie with George Clooney. She's also been in the Avengers movies and Doctor Strange.
Oh, that's right. She was, yeah, because she was the
Mm-hmm.
original Sorcerer Supreme. I forgot
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
I think if I was gonna say favorite movie of hers, I really liked her in Burn After Reading.
Yeah,
Um,
she's very funny.
and yes, but I also and of course I'm gonna get real. I don't know how pretentious this will sound, but I really like Jim Jarmusch, and so Only Lovers Left Alive is such a great movie to me.
Yeah,
Um, so I really like that movie. I really like her in it.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, because I mean, I like vampire stuff. I mean, I'm still
Yeah,
there.
how can you not?
I'm still a little goth punk kid somewhere in
You
there.
gotta be. You gotta
So
be.
that still floats around inside me. So I still have a soft spot. But oh, and then of course, whenever she was like in the What We Do in the Shadows show, where she would just
Yes, I was about
cameo
to talk
as
about
that
that.
same, yeah. So
Yeah,
that was awesome.
she's hilarious in What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh yeah.
She is fantastic in that. I still have not seen the end of that. So
But yeah, I need to watch more Tilda Swinton. Like
at some point, but yeah, she is one of the. Oh, sorry, I was
she's
waiting
one of
for you to
those
finish.
she's one of those actors. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say, well, she's one of those actresses that like, or actors, like, regardless of gender, like they just they kind of like they stand out just because she has a very distinct look. But talk about like just blending into a role. She's one of those where it's like she takes it on.
Yeah,
It's especially in this movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Other starring in this movie is Jamie Bell, who is also Elliot, and
Is also
he
Billy. Yeah,
was
you
in the
cut out there
Fantastic
for a
Four
second.
remake. Oh, okay.
He
Sorry about
was.
that.
Oh, that's right. He was in
He is
there.
Billy fucking Elliot. Yep, and he was in
And
the Fantastic Four remake as well. Yeah.
now, who did he play in that one? I'm trying to remember. Was he?
I believe it was the Thing,
Was he
maybe.
Ben? Okay, he was Ben Grimm.
I believe so.
That's
I'm not
okay.
sure. I didn't write down what character he played. I just
Yeah,
wrote down
no,
that he was
it's
in it.
he was in
I
it.
all of the Fantastic Four movies have sucked. There has not been a
Absolutely.
single good one.
I'm gonna go ahead and disagree with you right now because
Don't talk about the fucking Roger Corman
the
one.
Roger Corman one. How dare you?
It's
All right,
fucking awful. It's
I'm gonna go ahead and
unwatchable. It's
tell you
so
right now.
fucking boring. It's so fucking boring.
Of course it is, but here's the thing. When I was a kid, I was like maybe 10,
Yeah.
and the Power Rangers movie came out, that first one,
Yeah.
and
I
I
remember.
we
I was
rented the
there.
tape.
Yeah.
I rented the tape, and one of the previews on that VHS was that Fantastic Four movie,
Yeah.
and then it never came out.
Nope.
So I have something of a soft spot for there because I wanted to watch that movie so bad. There's little 10-year-old me wants to watch that movie, so I have watched it, and I I I know it's terrible. I know it's awful, but it's just it scratches an itch.
And
So
then I like it. Next on our cast list is Octavia Spencer, who
yes,
is another Oscar winner. She has been in a
yes,
ton of movies, including The Help.
hmm,
She's fantastic in that. But for the
absolutely.
purposes of my connection, she was also in the first Spider-Man movie with Sam Raimi.
The first one?
Yeah, yeah, she plays like basically an
Um,
extra. Like she's barely in
oh,
the movie at all. It
I
was way
think I
back when
know.
she was first getting started, but she is
Yeah,
in the movie very, very briefly.
I think I remember a scene.
Hmm. She's
It's
also the lead in
very foggy.
Maw. That movie, the horror movie
Hmm.
Maw, is really, really good.
Mom?
She's good in that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
MAW
She's
mom?
just. I think it's just M.A.
Oh, then I don't know.
I believe I could be wrong on the name. I don't know. I can't be bothered to go look now. She's in a horror movie that came out a couple of years ago. She plays an older
Okay.
woman who basically starts like buying booze for these kids, and basically it's a ruse to get them into this house where she kind of
Oh.
begins to stalk them and kill them all. It's a good
Oh.
time. It's a good time. We also have
Yeah.
John Hurt, who is in a ton of shows. He was in
Oh
Doctor
man.
Who, Alien, Elephant Man, Tinker Tailor, Soldier
1984.
Spy, 1984. He was also, for the purposes of my connection to see if you're catching on now, he was in
Mm-hmm.
Hellboy.
Well, that's right. He was.
Yeah. So have you caught on to what most of the cast, the connection between all of them that I've laid out for you?
Yep.
What's that?
MCU.
What's the
Well,
connection?
maybe not specifically MCU, but Marvel
Oh,
movies.
yeah, yeah, they've all been in comic book movies. Yeah.
Comic book movies. But well, I think they are
Except
all.
for Ed Harris. Ed Harris, I did not. I looked through his entire
Oh
filmography.
no, yeah, he
No
would.
comic book movies for Mr. Harris. He has
Ah.
followed Leonardo DiCaprio's rule, which is no comic book movies. That was
But
apparently
this.
a rule that Leonardo DiCaprio has, which is even his friend Toby he has appeared in
Okay.
several comic book movies now.
Oh, we cut out again there. Toby Maguire, I think is what you said.
Yeah, Toby Maguire has
Yeah,
appeared in
it's
several
crazy. Like
comic
those
book
two
movies.
are, you know, it would have made sense when they were kids, but now it's like I don't see it that they're
Yeah,
buddies.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
So yeah,
the
not only is this movie based on a comic book, which apparently is Ed
oh
Harris's only comic book movie, but
yeah,
most of the cast in this movie have appeared in other comic books, so or other comic book movies, I
okay,
should say. Chris
I like
Evans
that.
appearing in several, like
Several,
almost every Avengers. I think he's in every Avengers movie.
I believe that's
He's
right.
obviously in all the Captain America movies.
Mm-hmm.
Shows up in countless other movies. Randomly is also was in the Fantastic Four movies back in
Yeah,
the day as well, which were terrible.
no,
So
those were
yeah,
terrible. I'll give you that.
that the remake was also bad. The
Oh, the
one
remake
off
was
of the
terrible
yeah,
too.
and they're trying to remake it again with here soon with Pedro. Hopefully that one's good. I have my
Oh, that's
fingers
right.
crossed for that one. Like the
Yeah,
Fantastic Four is hard to fuck up. Like it, and
right.
somehow it's the no. It's kind of like Superman, where it's like, how do you fuck that up? And yet still somehow we can do
Yeah,
it. We'll
somehow.
find a way. We will
Yeah,
find a
really.
goddamn way.
Well, I mean, all they need to do is like there was a Fantastic Four cartoon show back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like just follow that. You know, they it worked. Like
Yeah.
just
The comic book Fantastic Four is a pretty simplistic one. You feel like
it
you could
really
easily
is.
pull a story out from there. Hopefully, the MCU is able to bounce back. We'll talk about that soon. Anyway, that's a story
Right.
for that's a conversation for a different day, or
Oh,
maybe a
that's right.
different hour from now.
Yeah, right.
So, this movie was a little bit of a production nightmare. It was
Yeah.
produced by the Weinstein Company, and they had a lot of demands for the director and the writer and the cast and crew as to what they wanted to make the
Huh.
movie as marketable as they wanted it to be. And so they went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The director almost quit a few times.
Oh no.
And yeah, it was one of those kind of productions that is kind of
Yeah.
gone down in history as being a little bit of a nightmare. And
Hmm.
ended up with the director got most of what he wanted. A lot of the like one of the big things that they wanted cut was the goldfish scene.
Oh really?
Yeah, and apparently the director told the Weinsteins that like he put that in there because his father was like he sold goldfish and it was an homage to his father,
Hmm.
which is a complete lie.
Oh,
Because
that's very funny.
just because he really liked the goldfish scene and wanted it in the
Yeah.
movie, and
Oh, that's
so he kind of fought for
amazing.
it by making up some bullshit. So
I like that.
I thought that was a fun story. That was one thing that I remembered from my previous notes, where I had more written down about how contentious this production was. But needless to say,
Hmm.
once he finished, he didn't work with Weinstein's ever again, and they wouldn't even be long for this world because of allegations and eventually bankruptcy. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah.
Well, so that's all I have for the movie info. Let's talk a little bit about the TV show, and then
Hmm.
we'll talk about the songs that came out, and then jump into the plot. So,
Yeah.
This movie has spawned something of a cult audience,
Hmm.
coinciding with the comic books and the strength behind everyone reading those as well. Enough that it spawned its TV show that came out. And
Yes.
this was how I found out about the show. The TV show came out during COVID, and
Mm.
during COVID, I was jobless for a portion of it, and spent a lot of time watching TV. And one of the TV shows that I really got into season one of during COVID was Snowpiercer, and it
Yeah.
featured the main star was I forget his name,
David.
David Diggs, is it?
Yes. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
a big David Dix fan. So
yeah.
it,
He's in
for
Hamilton.
some
He's
reason, I
great in
couldn't.
Hamilton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe the
Um.
best part of Hamilton is him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like especially because like, how do you like keep the rap and rhythm and all that while doing a very convincing French accent? Like
It's a
that's
good.
amazing.
He's
He's good.
very, very good. He's very, very
Oh
good. He is the quote unquote star of Snowpiercer. There's
yeah.
kind of an ensemble cast. Jennifer
It's
Connelly is also in the TV
yeah.
show. So the TV show ran for 4 seasons, and it actually starts 7 years after the events of the
Hmm.
freeze that freezes the
Yes.
world. Whereas the movie takes place, I believe, 17 years
Yeah, it's
afterwards.
yeah.
So the only real connection between the two is in the movie at one point, Chris Evans rebellions have failed. That's
Oh,
kind
you
of
cut
like
out a
the
little
only
bit.
hint that you get about. Okay, sorry about that.
You,
Getting used to
yeah,
the new
you.
setup in here.
Oh no, I gotcha. So the only real connection was like you said, the Chris Evans.
Yeah, at one point he mentions that like there's past rebellions have failed within the train.
Yes.
And so that's kind of like your only insight that like this something similar to this has happened before.
Hmm.
So the TV show has similar themes as the movie, but doesn't have the
Hmm.
same characters, doesn't have any of the same action. Just similar themes about the social commentary
Yeah.
and how everything kind of plays out over the course of a little bit more slower because it's
Well, yeah, because it's much more stretched out. Yeah. And oh, you're cutting out again. But the
yes. Oh, I
there
just
we go.
lost connection. There it comes
Oh, did
back.
you?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, it definitely stretches out more, and you get much more fleshed out. I watched some of the episodes. I didn't watch that many because it was very poor quality because I couldn't find it legit anywhere, so I had to find it a different
Yeah.
way, and
I
I
forget
it,
where
it
it's
just
streaming. I think it ended
I think
up
it's
ending
on
its run on AMC.
Apple TV Plus now,
Is
which
it?
I
Okay, yeah. It's been a
which I
while.
don't.
Yeah, it's one of those
Yeah,
it started on I think it started on
TNT.
TNT
Yeah.
and then it jumped to TBS for the
Hmm.
second season and for the third season. And then I think they either finished the fourth and then it got shopped to a different network
I think
or
it.
they canceled it and
I
something
think the
happened where it
fourth.
ended up going to a different network.
Yeah, fourth ended up on AMC.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that and then it kind of getting buried during COVID because so many
Hmm.
things were coming out during COVID.
Oh yeah.
It was just like everyone was just dropping everything during COVID, all kinds of
Yep.
projects, things that had been made for years behind were just like, here it is.
Hmm.
So it was one of those that kind of had a hard time finding an audience. But I really like the TV show. It's a good time.
Yeah,
I
what
really
like
like the
what
movie. The
little
movie's
I
a good time.
oh yeah. What little I watched of this show I really liked. I only watched like a
Yeah.
handful of episodes before I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I need to figure out devote some actual time to this and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, get it legit. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have not finished the show all the way through yet, but
mm.
I've had a good time with what I've watched.
Oh
So
yeah.
speaking of having a good time with what I watched, let's talk about the songs that were in the charts when this
Oh
movie came out, and then we'll take a little break and dive into the
yeah.
plot.
2014. I don't even
July 11th, 2014, the top 5 songs. Any guesses at all?
I
Anything?
have zero
10,
guesses.
10 years ago. 10
Oh man.
years ago. It seems like it
Um
wasn't that long ago, but
I
wow.
feel like hopefully some Kendrick, maybe?
No, not on the top five.
No,
Not in the
not
top
on the
five.
top five.
Yep, nope,
Must
nope.
not have been around that time.
There is
Um,
a rap song that is number one, but whew,
oh.
rap is in inverted commas. So number five is the song "Stay with Me." Do you remember that song?
I think I know that song.
Sam
Stay with me.
Smith.
I think I've heard that song before. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an annoying one.
Yeah.
Number 4 was a song I'd never heard of. It was by Nico and Vines. It was called "Am I Wrong?" I don't know anything about that song.
Nope.
Do not remember at all.
I don't know that name. I don't know the band. I don't know the
Yeah.
song. Or if I hear it, I might. Maybe it might be one of those where I'm like,
So
yeah.
number 3 gives you a hint about number 1.
Oh.
So I'll tell you the artist and see if you can remember the song. Ariana Grande and Iggy Azalea.
What was that song? I know which song you're talking about. I just cannot remember.
Okay.
I can,
I
yeah,
don't
it's
blame
not.
you. It's called Problem.
Oh, that's
There you
right.
go.
That's right.
There you go. That's it. Number 2 was a song I've also never heard of called Rude by the group Magic.
I, I'm afraid I know that song.
I don't know that song at all.
You might have heard it, where it's like that song where it's like you didn't have to be so rude or something like that. Like that's the lyric or something.
Oh, yeah, that
Yeah,
song makes me
if
want to
that's,
unalive myself.
I was gonna say it's not a good song. So it's
And number 1 is an Iggy Azalea song. Do you
okay. Yeah, and
remember
you'd have to.
her? Do you remember her big hit?
No.
You don't remember the one big hit of Australian white rapper Iggy Azalea?
Surprisingly, I don't.
Son of a bitch. It was Fancy.
Yep. You could have said
That's
anything
it.
and I'd still believe you.
That's the
Like you could,
one.
because don't remember that. Yeah, that
Yeah,
didn't.
that was the number 1 song. So
That was an artist that just didn't.
that was 10 years ago. There you go.
Dang.
That's where we were musically 10 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
We're going to take a little break and we'll come back and talk about the plot of Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
Happy face. Ooh, lion face. Hey, my name is Matt.
Hey, it's Travis.
And we are the hosts of Welcome to the End of the World podcast, where every week we talk about movies about the end of the world. Sounds depressing. We try to make it not. It's a fun time. You should come give us a listen. Don't you think so, Travis?
I think so.
Yeah, and he's a doctor. Okie dokie. We are back again.
We
How's it
did it.
feel to be back?
It feels like I'm back.
Feels like you're back. Well, that's good.
Yep.
Let's go forward. It's
Ooh, I like it.
impossible to stand still on a moving train, as we find out with this movie,
Oh, that's
because
fantastic.
this movie is basically completely allegorical and metaphorical.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much the premise of the movie. So you can think of society as being the train,
Mm-hmm.
and the various sections of the train represent the various classes in of the hierarchy of society. So the lower end of the train, the back section, the ass, if you will, that is the lower class. Then you have the middle section, which would be the middle class, which is the largest, but they are seemingly the of all of the classes, they're the ones that are oblivious of anything going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the upper class, which is the wealthiest, and also those running the train.
Right.
And this is at the very, very top of the nose of the train, and they represent, the top 1%. It's interesting that we're recording this after what happened with the CEO and Luigi and everything, but
Right.
uh, they represent that top 1%, the CEOs, that is Elon says we need in order just to get by. Apparently, I can't
Yeah.
function without a
Honestly,
CEO in
if anything,
California.
Elon proved that CEOs are not that critical, because how many companies is he the CEO of, and how much time does he? And there's no way he spends near enough time doing real work at any
I have
one
a
of those
joke. You want
companies.
to hear my joke? How many CEOs does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Oh, how many?
306.
Oh.
I don't know. I just made up a random number. That wasn't a very good joke, was it?
Well, if you'd like me to bring it around, I did recently hear a light bulb joke recently. Uh, how many Freudians does it take to screw in a light bulb?
3.
It's two. One to screw it in, and the other to hold the penis. I mean, ladder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like that?
No. No, I didn't.
It was a very stupid one. Yeah.
Mine was stupid too. Mine
Well,
was
one for
less of a
one.
joke and more of just like a random number. You know
Which are
what? I
pretty.
like it.
I
I
like
like
it.
it. There's my jokes. So yeah, that's basically the train broken down. So the characters, the actions, the progress through the different sections of the train. You can think of all this as a metaphor for social progress and
Mm-hmm.
how the lower class trying to move up the ranks of the middle class and how difficult the most of the movie is them moving through the middle class and
Mm-hmm.
trying to progress up to the top 1%. And that's also where they lose most of the people along the journey
Mm-hmm.
is in that middle class realm. So you can kind of think of that also as being metaphorical. The movie is very good in this sense, and I think that this is one of the reasons why it has become a cult movie and really kind of endears itself to repeated viewings is because there's a lot of little nuances that are very subtle but worth paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to. And I feel like the director is definitely kind of making them
Oh,
noticed,
oh yeah,
drawing
absolutely.
wanting you to notice them. Right, based on his
Mm-hmm.
love of social commentary. I feel like it's kind of
Yes.
there for you, right? So there's a lot to chew on in this movie, especially if you like movies that quote unquote have something to say.
Yes. We live in
So
a society.
the society. So John Hurt he encourages Chris Evans to rebel against the society. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of doing a loose plot thread here because, like I said, I lost my notes. And
Yeah.
I have no idea where my DVD copy of Snowpiercer is. It's in one of these like 7 boxes or so of
Oh.
movies. So I don't know where it's at to rewatch it. If I could find it, I was gonna rewatch it today. I couldn't find it, so I didn't rewatch it. So I am going plot off of memory.
Yeah.
So a lot of this is going to be a summarization, less of a
And that's
straight
and that
narrative
works.
train through, you know.
Well, and luckily the train itself from the comic to the movie lost a lot of uh cars. It lost a lot of how many cars there are on the train because
Yeah.
originally it was 1,001. And I
Yeah,
think in this one it's like
apparently
30 something.
in the TV show you find out that there's more than one train, so
Oh yeah, well yeah, because I think
yeah.
there's the comics. There's another comic where they have other like it is another train.
Yeah,
Um,
and I know in the first season of the TV show, like they get all the way to the lead of the train, and then you find out that who they're looking for isn't even on the train; he's on another train. And then it's
oh, this
that's
wasn't
that's
the
like the big reveal of season 1, spoiler, is that
princess
like
was in another
there's another
castle.
train. Basically, yes, Mario, yeah. Full circle to Luigi.
Oh, and we got
It's a
there.
me, Luigi, with the clock 45. Anyway, so Chris is told basically like the movie starts with them in line to get food,
Mhm.
and they're told to stand in different rows, and you can tell they're very agitated by this because they're only getting fed very, very little of
Mhm.
these protein squares, basically, is what they're getting fed.
Yeah.
And so Chris is kind of planning a rebellion, but you
Mhm.
keep getting so the movie starts with like little seeds of the rebellion being spread. They're passing notes. They're kind of getting
Yeah.
told like it's not quite time yet. It's not quite time
Yeah.
yet.
They're
And then we
counting the
also meet,
timing of the I was gonna say, yeah, they're
yeah,
counting the timing of like when the doors are open, like can they
yes,
get all the way through,
yeah.
things like that.
How's
Like
how
they're
many seconds do you have before one door
yeah.
shuts till the other door shuts to the car? So like basically like how many seconds you need to be able to make that sprint, and whether
Mhm.
or not he can make it.
Yeah.
And we also meet some of the characters that are going to really throw the plot into action, which are the children. Don't know why I said it
Mhm.
like that. The children, but the
The
children,
children.
Timmy, and what was the other kid's name? Was it Andrew? Do you remember?
I do not remember the kid's name.
Let's call him Andrew.
Let's call
Let's call him Andy. So
him.
Timmy and Andy, these kids, we meet them at the beginning of the movie, and this is
Mhm.
their kind of plot devices
Yes.
for the movie in more than one way. Like literally in more than one way. literally plot devices. But
Absolutely.
they also I mean, at the beginning of the movie they're important because we meet them and we show that there's this relationship that Chris Evans has with Octavia Spencer's character, who is Timmy's mom. And
Yes.
Timmy is this kind of this like shy kid. He's kind of like a street kid in this train car situation, jumping and around and having fun. And they're giving him
Hmm.
protein blocks in exchange for what did they give in exchange for? I forget what they make some kind of trade with Timmy for
Yeah.
information that they need to get. I believe it's like part of the drug that they need to
Oh, that's
give to the
right.
next
That
to get to
and
the
I
next part.
oh, how did I forget the name of the drug?
It's I know that it's important to the movie because everything in this movie is kind of important.
Oh yeah.
But I forget the name of the drug as well, but it's less of a drug as we find out and more of like a
Yep.
chemical compound that is highly combustive.
Yeah. Well, because it's like a
And
byproduct of their fuel,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like the fuel production. So
Yes, sir. This
yeah,
is
it's
all correct.
basically like they're basically like huffing gas,
Yeah,
for
basically.
lack of a
Yeah.
better.
And we'll get to them here in a minute. There are
Hmm.
some important characters.
Oh yes.
So, um they're all in the lower class and
Hmm.
they're waiting for the appropriate time to rebel, and no better time than when someone from the upper class comes all the way down to basically steal their children.
Hmm.
So they have all the people in the lower class line up and they present their kids and everything, and this upper class lady, who we'll meet again at the end of the movie, who is very cold and emotionless and basically says nothing.
Yep.
She comes in and she's looking at the different kids, and she, of course, spots Andy and Timmy and steals them both and decides to
Yeah.
take them. And that action there is what spirals the rebellion forward because they decide to
Hmm.
rebel very shortly thereafter. And then it's full
Yes.
on anarchy in the lower class, but not before they get visited by Tilda Swinton's character, who is there to kind of quell some of the rebellion. And
Hmm.
she is amazing in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she
She's.
is she is probably the best actress in this movie, and she
Hmm.
is very very funny with how she takes on these different roles, and she's basically explaining to the lower class that everyone has a role to play in this society, and
Hmm.
she uses a shoe as a
A
metaphor,
shoe.
and
You wouldn't wear a
basically
shoe as a hat.
you would not wear a shoe as a hat, and the lower class are the shoes. They're there to be worn, to be used, but
Yeah.
not to be celebrated. Not, you wouldn't put a shoe on your head is the kind of the whole
Yeah.
idea she's going. And this also kind of incites more anarchy and violence,
Hmm.
which
Well,
is
especially
is a fun
because
scene.
while they're doing that, they've basically doing their this insane punishment where they take that guy's arm and
Yes.
stick it out of the train.
Yes, yes. So the guy, Andy's dad,
Yes.
he tries to steal his son back, and he ends up causing an injury to one of the ladies on the upper class. And for this, they take his arm and they put it through a hole in the train, and they
Mm.
basically freeze it off, and then they break it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very painful scene to watch. It's a form of torture
It's
that they do a lot of. The limb breaking is a theme in this movie.
it is.
Losing a limb is a kind of common theme in this movie.
Yeah, it definitely yeah.
It comes up again at the very end as well.
It does. Well, because it's sort of not really foreshadowed, but definitely made clear like this is thematic
Oh,
because
so
he's got the scar.
if you think about it, it's foreshadowed. If you look at the movie poster, the arm that's covered is the arm he loses.
Oh.
When at the very beginning of the movie, when he goes to sleep and he puts his arm behind his head, it's the arm that he loses that he puts behind his head.
Oh.
So like they give you hints throughout the movie that like he's gonna
Yeah.
lose that arm,
Well,
which
and that was
is like
also
I
the same
said,
arm that it
interesting
was
for repeat
scarred
watching. Yeah,
because he was
yeah.
gonna cut his arm off for something, and I forgot what it was. It was gonna be some
Um,
kind of a sacrifice thing. Like he's
yeah,
gonna.
for well,
Oh, it was because they were
okay,
feeding. They were
yeah,
eating.
yeah, yeah. We
They
get to
were.
that
It
at the end
was
of it when he kind of
right.
reveals his big hidden guilt that
Oh,
he's
that's
been
right.
holding with him the whole time. But yeah, we'll get there. But yeah,
Yeah.
his arm, him losing his arm, is heavily foreshadowed.
Yeah.
Even
It's
all the way at the beginning of the movie.
yes. It's a
So
very heavy thematic. Like.
as they start making their way through the different trains, they're getting to meet up with two people who are going to help them. One of them is a former designer of the train, and
Hmm.
his daughter, who are also both drug addicts.
Yes.
And his daughter has some special powers.
Yeah.
She can. She's not a
She,
telepath, is she?
no, I don't know what you call it. She
She
is
can see through
like,
walls.
yeah, or like
She,
just knows what's happening on the other side of
yeah,
them,
I can't.
or
I can't remember. It's been I'm trying to remember now. Because like I said, I lost all my notes. I'm trying to remember if she can see through
yeah.
walls or if she can kind of see the future. But in either event, her powers come in handy several different times, especially at the end of the movie. They basically are the whole reason the movie ends the way it does.
Oh yeah.
So the
Hmm.
group keeps making its way from cart to cart, and they get stopped along the way and have some really fun action scenes.
Yeah.
And this is where the movie kind of spends the bulk of it, is like I said, in this kind of middle class scenes of different things. The two scenes that stand out the most to me were the tunnel scene where they have to fight in the dark for a little while.
Oh yes.
Very, very well done. Very, very
It
well
was
done.
very well done.
It's an amazing action scene. The director can definitely stage action scenes very, very well. I
Hmm.
really enjoyed his action scenes. They also,
Oh
he
yeah.
has a tendency, like we talked about at the beginning, to do tonal shifts. So he'll throw in some comedy elements
Yep.
into them, which makes the action scenes more interesting to engage with because, like, they'll, it's not just like 5 or 6 minutes of like an action scene. It'll be like 2 or 3 minutes of them like fighting, and then something kind of funny will happen and breaks up
Yeah.
the, and then they go back to fighting again, and it kind of,
Well, and I guess with
and
that, for that scene, it would have been them like counting down their new year. I'm doing air quotes on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, every time they're so this is also a big thing in the TV show, which is basically like their new year is when they celebrate going through the station that they departed through.
Hmm.
And so that's supposed to be like one trip around the entire globe.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of they celebrate the new year as they're in the middle of fighting, which is kind of
Yeah.
funny. The other scene that's really stood out to me is the scene in the school with the teacher.
Yes.
Because that was just fucking insane.
Oh, it was
That just
absolutely
how
insane.
weird that was. And the teacher is played by Allison Pill, who a couple
Hmm.
of weeks ago, when we recorded our last episode, we talked about movies that are so bad they're good, and I talked
Hmm.
about the movie Trap with Josh Hartnett.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
she is his wife in that movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So,
I'm probably never
uh,
gonna see that movie. I'm gonna be honest with you.
it's not it's kind of worth seeing. I watched it again not too
Oh,
long
really?
ago. Yeah, we haven't had anything to do recently, so we've just been watching movies. And that was one I actually bought on DVD because I enjoyed it way too much.
Oh,
And
okay.
I watched it with my wife, I think like 4 or 5 times now. It's such a
Okay.
bad
So I
movie.
guess that's a
Such a
pretty
bad
good
movie.
endorsement, I gotta say.
It's
Honestly.
M. Night Shyamalan at his most self-indulgent because his daughter is
I
like
was
one
about
of
to
the
say
main actresses in it.
it's literally self-indulgent. Like
Yes, exactly. It's kind of fun to watch. Uh, so this is also where we start to lose some of the so going back to the teacher scene. So basically, Allison Pill is playing this like indoctrinating teacher, and
yeah,
she ends up fucking just pulling out a gun at some point.
it is insane. Oh yeah, like they stage this
It's pretty
whole like
intense.
because I mean eh, it's crazy like because they get those eggs like the
Yes.
hard boiled eggs and that's what that's where they have all the guns and stuff.
Yeah,
But
and the guns are there.
that
Yep.
I don't know, like the food seems to be another big theme in this movie. Like
Yeah.
you can mark where they are like by the food they're getting. Like they're progressively getting like more and more, I guess, inclusive type of food. Like they're
Yeah.
not or not no not inclusive, exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, they go from having
Um,
protein blocks and basically resorting to cannibalism to,
basically, yeah.
having like hard-boiled eggs and
And we did skip
sandwiches.
over the scene where we see how those protein bars are made.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because,
we did skip
and I
over
don't
that.
know if
Yep.
you recognized the guy that was manning that machine. Um,
Do not recall.
he was the guy that was in, I don't remember his name at all, but he was the guy in Silence of the Lambs when he was they were talking to him about the moth. He was
Okay.
the FBI guy or whatever. The guy with like he's kind of got one of his eyes is kind of crossed or like really crossed. Um,
Okay.
but that's him. And so
Interesting.
because Bong Joon Ho, big fan of Silence of the Lambs, so
Hmm.
that in his movies there is definitely callbacks to that, and this is probably the biggest one because they're made of bugs. He's the one handling the bugs
Uh-huh.
in Silence of the Lambs. He explains about the moth, like somebody loved this moth. If they fed it honey, they did all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like I don't know, his love letter to that movie, basically.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you get to see him, and uh, but he's was one of them, I guess, and
Hmm.
like works in this thing now and just feeds them bugs. And but he does say, like, well, what do you think I eat? Oh, Paul
Yeah.
Lazar, whatever, Lazar. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Ah,
That was his
yeah.
name. But yeah, really good actor too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I think the
but
food is
yeah.
definitely supposed to be a metaphor as well for the different,
Hmm.
classes in terms of like the production and
Exactly,
access to
like
the means of their own production.
because it's
Excuse me.
because the issue with food isn't so much abundance, it's about distribution.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because when
So
they have these eggs, they have a lot.
they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after we get through the school and we get some other scenes, this is where we start to lose some of the characters, including
Yes.
Billy Elliot there,
Yes.
good old Ben Grimm. We lose
Oh, you cut out
Gilliam,
a bit.
John Hurt's character.
Yes.
Gilliam, John Hurt's character, also dies there as well. So we lose several different characters there
Hmm.
as we kind of progress to the end of the movie. And so we get to the close to the end and we go through this little nightclub scene where the addicts
Yeah.
are just stealing everyone's drugs, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
And you think they're just like doing it to be dicks, but then at the end of the movie you kind of see like why he was doing it.
Yes.
It does have some unintended results, which is causing like a full-scale riot of people coming after them to get their
Yes.
drugs back. um
And then
we
yeah,
also
that
see
that was a
as we
really interesting like fight scene, action scene
yeah
also.
yeah, as we move through
Like
the carts, we also see like the difference like in the middle in the middle carts, they're trying to stop them. Like they keep
hmm
having people trying to kill them. When they get to the upper class carts, it's very little people are trying to stop them anymore. Like they don't even seem
Yeah.
to notice that it's going on. They're like,
Yeah.
what's going
Yeah.
on?" Like, and then they get to the upper cards, which is where we get to the climax of the movie, or not the climax of the movie. I guess the kind of the end of the movie, resolving action of the movie, which
Yeah.
is Chris Evans meeting the who actually runs this fucking train, which is
Yeah.
Ed Harris. They finally get to meet each other, and this is also where we get the big reveal of the movie, which is that one, Chris Evans has been dealing with the guilt of, well, he kind of used to be a cannibal.
Yep. Oh
He
yeah.
lets that information known
Hmm.
as they're waiting to get into access to the
Yeah, that's right.
to the boss's
Because
room.
he was talking to the designer, the guy that's seems like he's a drug addict, but oh, and also I was gonna say that actor, what's his name? Song Kang Ho. I'm
Yeah,
looking it up now.
yeah, yeah.
He was in a he's a
He's in Parasite as well.
yeah, he's in Parasite, The Host. He's
Uh,
in
sympathy for
Memoirs of a
Mr.
Murder.
Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance.
Yeah, see, like so
There's a
he
deep cut.
yeah. See, I don't even know that one.
Is he in that? Double check me.
Double check.
Sympathy for
When
Mr.
would that have been?
Vengeance, the 2006.
All right, let's see. Let's see what you got
Did
here
I
on
get the year
IMDb.
right too? Check me on the year. I'm just guessing. I honestly don't have this in front of me. I'm trying to see if I'm
Uh,
is
oh,
he in Sim.
2002.
Damn. But
But
he
yeah,
was
he
in
was
it.
in there.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay, cool. He's one of I think he's the
Yeah,
main star.
I can see it. Well, he
He's a good
usually
he's an
is.
amazing actor.
Oh, he really is.
Yeah. Is he an Oscar
And
nominee? Did he get nominated for an Oscar for Parasite? I can't remember.
that's a really good question.
He may
He
not
has
have.
a
I know Parasite
mm,
got nominated for like director, writer, and then Best
yeah.
Picture. Because it's like
No,
the
he has.
last big movie to win a Best Picture with that was a foreign film.
Yeah, he's been definitely. nominated for a lot of different awards and won a lot of awards. You know how many awards he won? 61
Yeah.
wins.
Yeah, I'll show it.
He None of them were Oscars or anything like that, but he's got a
Fuck
lot of
'em.
accolades. So
Fuck
you
'em.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
Mm,
So the entire time he's been collecting those drugs, we find out that that
yes,
actually is going to be used as a bomb
yeah,
to
because it
blow
is
the train off.
still,
Because
you
his
know,
theory is the whole time, his theory has been that the planet has defrosted enough for life to be returned, that we can go outside the train and we be okay again.
yeah, which
And
I
we get to the
struggle
end of the
with on
movie,
that
and he's
part.
turns out he's right when we get to the end of the movie, though.
Yeah. Well, because he was saying something like, because there was every time they go over that bridge, which was the bridge that they go over for the New Year's,
Uh-huh.
that part.
Yeah, the ice melts a
And
little
there's
bit
this,
each time.
yeah, there's a little bit more of this plane being shown
Mhm.
every, like, being revealed every time they go by it.
Yeah.
But my issue here with this concept is, didn't just earlier in the movie they held a guy's arm out for 7 seconds? Or I mean, sorry, 7 minutes, and it was completely frozen solid to where they could just break it off.
Yeah, that may have
So,
happened.
but there was something that he'd said about,
He didn't have a
like,
coat on, though. That's the difference. He didn't
see,
have a
that was the
parka.
difference.
You got to have a good
And,
parka on. You have a good
but
parka, you're all set. You got to go to a good Urban Outfitter store, like
but
a
he was saying
good
something
mountain
about
climbing store.
the snow itself was like, it would need to, like, fall, or it was gonna fall and it was gonna, something about that, which, that does happen where there's a huge avalanche
Yeah,
that derails the whole thing.
it does.
um but before that happens, we find out more about the plot device of those kids.
Yes. Well, before we get there, Ed
Oh, even
Harris.
before that,
Yeah, I was gonna say we skipped
that's
over the
right, Ed
part where
Harris.
Ed Harris basically tells Chris Evans, like, "Hey, me and Gilliam, John Hurt, we
Yep,
worked together the whole time.
yep, they would talk
Like, he
through like
did this
a,
because we needed to control the population,
yep, and
and
it
they had a
was what,
connection between the I forget the
what was the
percentages.
percentage?
I forget the percentage.
72%?
72%. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, this whole exercise that Chris Evans, this whole rebellion that Chris Evans was pushed towards by Gilliam was all for population control. They were working
Yep.
together, which kind of speaks to the metaphor of the movie that the middle class, the lower class, everyone's being manipulated by the upper class, right?
Yep.
And even some member, because even Gilliam used to be a member of the upper class and
Yep.
then was sent to the lower class, but was still working with the upper class.
Yeah. Still in contact with him. Like, they would talk.
Manipulating everything. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So the movie takes a turn there, and then it takes another turn because Ed Harris tells him, "Well, look, I'm aging. I need someone to take on my role. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to." And he lets Chris Evans get up into like where the engine room is. And at this point, Chris Evans seems like he's going to do it. Like
Yeah,
he
he's
seems like
definitely
he's
defeated.
yeah, okay. And then that gets broken up because he gets revealed. Because at this point, so at this point in the movie, I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, this is all good, but what about the fucking kids? Like this
Yeah.
entire time we did this because let's get the kids, right? And I'm thinking the
Won't
movie's
anyone
just
think
going
of
to
the
end
children?
there. Yeah, I'm thinking the movie's going to end there, and I'm just like, okay, well, like, because Timmy's mom, she dies in the movie, so at this
Yes.
point, Timmy has no parents, right?
Right.
Mom's dead, and Andy's dad is dead,
Yep.
right? So I'm thinking like, well, are they going to talk about what happens to the kids? The answer is yes. So at the very,
Yes.
not even at the very end, the movie keeps going after this for a while.
Right.
So she shows back up the drug addict telepath. I forget her name in the movie. Oh my god, it literally just escaped me.
Oh, I still
You,
think I
I
still
was gonna
have it up.
say you have it pulled up in front of you. You'll have to tell me
Yeah, it was.
what
Her
is her
name
name in this
was
movie.
Yana. Yona.
Yeah, Yona. Yeah. So
Yeah.
she shows up and tries to get Chris's attention. And at first he kind of shuns her. He's kind of like, get away from me. Like I'm about to take over. But then she opens up the compartment and shows him who really runs the train. Because it's not the
Yes.
conductor. It's who really runs capitalism. It's the blood of the children.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
wow.
she opens it and Timmy is down there, squeezed underneath the little gears. He's the one fixing and giving the machine running. And Ed Harris
Hmm.
justifies it by saying, well, like, who else can fit down there, right?
Yeah, because
Like, you
he'd
need
said,
children. Like, what do you want me to
because
do?
all throughout this whole thing, they're calling the every time they say that they've run out of something, they say it's extinct. Like
Yeah.
the bullets were extinct, but then they ended up not being.
Hmm.
Uh, then he says basically like the means to do that, like what was what they were using before went extinct, so they had to replace it with little kids.
Hmm.
So, and that's why they were like measuring the kids at the
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah, measuring them, making sure they would fit.
Hmm.
Yeah. And this, of course, angers Chris Evans, and he immediately Captain America's and punches Ed Harris like he's fucking Nazi and
Absolutely.
knocks him on his ass. And then this is also when he decides, hey, you got to lose an arm if you want to
Yeah.
throw over capitalism. So he sticks his arm into the gears to stop the gears
Yes.
of the train so they can get Timmy out. At the same gets out from some compartment. And when this is also
Hmm.
where the little kid shows up. He shows up and he goes over to the other part to restart the train,
That's
completely
right.
ignoring that they're even talking to him.
Yeah.
They're able
Like
to get
just,
Timmy out, but the other kid, he's just like oblivious to them. He's just doing his own thing.
yep.
He's too far gone. And at the same time, the bomb's about to go off. So Chris Evans and the other
Y-
character, they
Yona.
Yona, yeah, they both guard Timmy, and the train explodes, goes off the tracks. We get a giant CGI avalanche.
Yes.
You see everyone in the train just kind of getting fucked up. The people that are still
Yep.
there, you imagine most people are gonna die from this, right?
Yeah.
Like it would be a lot to live through that. It's a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then at the very end, we see that the only two people who seem to have lived are little Timmy and Yona.
Yes.
And she covers him in a parka, and she
Hmm.
covers herself. She checks on Chris Evans. He's dead. She
Yep.
checks on her father. He also seems to be dead.
Yeah.
And so the blast and the derailing seem to have killed them, or at least that's what we think. And then
Right.
she begins to wander out into the frozen wastelands of the
Yep.
world. And not too long after they start to walk, they see in the sign in the distance, I mean, well, it is a sign, but they see in the
Yeah.
distance the sign of life, which is a polar bear,
Yeah.
is wandering around, and this proves her dad's theory that the world is safe again for life, and
Hmm.
that's where the movie ends.
Yeah. Really. Yeah.
So,
It just leaves it on that. Um, I have a, well, like I said, I've already said my thing. Like, how did they go from you can't be out there for 7 seconds without being frozen solid to there's an animal just running around? Like,
parka.
yeah, basically. So,
You got to have a good parka.
but I'm fine with what is that, suspension of disbelief? I'm very good at that
Yeah,
with
I mean, I
movies.
think the
So,
movie, like the movie's supposed to be a metaphor.
exactly.
Everything it's kind of staged to be like a symbolism for like
Yeah.
this is how our society works. And I
So,
think in that sense it works. Um, I
so
don't want
here's
to
the
say like
thing.
turn your brain off and don't think about parts of
Well, no,
it,
because you
but
definitely want, yeah, it just
I
don't
think
let
that
little things like that get in the way.
well, no, I think
It's
that
like,
that's part of it. Like that's definitely a thing that you have to think about when it comes to that part of the movie is like how does that work? Because there are some other parts of the movie that also like that that they put a lot of thought into. And then there's
hmm,
some parts of it, like when they're shooting in the train, at least at first, they put a
yeah,
lot of thought about where they're shooting at. And then by the end of it, they're just kind of shooting wherever and they don't give a shit
yeah,
anymore.
right, like,
And
yeah.
so it's kind of like, okay, well, I guess, we're just kind of saying, fuck it, they're getting too close to the front of the train. Let's just pull all the guards off and just shoot wherever. I remember that being a big part of it. But
Yeah,
altogether, I thought that the movie I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I
it
like
was
the TV show.
amazing.
I like the
See, and
movie
I've
a
watched a
lot.
little bit of it, and I liked what I saw of the
Yeah.
show. Yeah, the movie, I
I
remember watching it closer to when it came out. I
uh-huh.
didn't see it in theaters or anything like that, but
Yeah.
um, I watched it shortly after on DVD and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, or just on TV, and it was, I loved it.
Yeah, I think it's a
Um,
really interesting, fun take on
it
the end of the
it
world.
is. Oh yeah.
Like just because the train, basically all of society being confined to this never-ending train,
Hmm.
is an interesting idea that I think is worth kind of just using as a metaphor to explore different societal things. And
Hmm.
just putting them up on aboard a train kind of makes for an interesting concept. And
Yeah.
then from there, you can kind of do some fun things. And I think that this movie is a fun time. I really enjoyed it. I would
Oh,
definitely seek it
absolutely.
out. It's on various streaming platforms at different times. It
Yeah.
kind of comes and goes. I
Yeah, it
think it's
really does.
actually gone right now from Tubi where I watched it
Uh-huh.
at. It's like I said, I own the DVD, but it's one that is definitely worth buying, and
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun with it.
I did. I was gonna say also, if you want, if you'll indulge this, my nephew, because I brought up watching the movie to him. He's 23, and he said, "Oh, isn't that like a? It's supposed to be like a sequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory or whatever." And I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. So I ended
This
up
is
looking it up.
apparently an internet theory.
It's an internet theory. It's very interesting. I mean, I don't buy it as an at all intentional, but as a fun little theory, I like it. I think it's cute. But the idea of like, okay, so you've got, you know, the train, what was his name, like Wilford or something like that, the creator of the train,
Yes.
W on he's got the W on everything. Willy
Mm-hmm.
Wonka has a W on everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, Willy Wonka had, what's his name, Slugworth or whatever, the guy that worked for him that was like
Yeah. Are we talking about
getting
the
a.
movie or the book? Because I don't remember either.
Oh, really?
It's nice that I asked a clarifying question and then don't know. It's like
Nice.
that made myself laugh that one. No.
I love that.
So I watched a YouTube video on this because I thought it was interesting too.
Yeah,
And I would say that like it's fun. It's a fun
it's
theory.
fun. It's a
I
fun
don't
theory.
think it's intentional. Not that that
It's not at
matters.
all intentional,
Who gives a
and it
shit?
doesn't
If you
even
think it
matter.
is,
Yeah,
then you can work with it.
yeah. It's just one
I
of those
don't know
things.
if it. I think if you break it down too granularly, I think it kind of loses some of the
It
connection
definitely
a
does.
little bit.
Yeah,
But
there's
you know,
tangential.
I think
There's
both
little
are
things.
like both are allegories for capitalism.
Absolutely.
Like
So yeah, it's
Wizard
easy
of
to get
Oz
them.
is supposed to be an allegorical, metaphorical tale about the lower class struggling to move up in
Yeah.
society and getting shoved back
Um.
down by the top 1%. Like that's kind of what
Yeah.
it's supposed to be. It's
So yeah,
so
I
is
guess
this
yeah.
movie as well. Kind of, Tilda Swinton is
Yeah.
kind of like a Wicked Witch type character.
So these themes, yeah, they definitely, they rub elbows, because they're
Yeah.
they're similar themes. They tell similar stories, so it's really easy to get the same thing, so
Yeah. I can
um
say it. I can say
but
it.
but it's an interesting theory. I think it's fun. I think, I like little fan theories that people
Yeah.
come up with.
I thought that was
They're
a fun one
fun.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming along on our
Yeah.
fantastic journey here as we talked about Snowpiercer. This was a weird episode that was delayed and delayed and delayed and
Yeah.
delayed again. But hopefully it was worth the wait to hear us talk a little
Yeah.
bit about a movie that unfortunately all of my notes were lost for. And I had to
Yeah,
cobble together
we also got caught
a
up
little
and
bit of getting everything caught up. Yeah. It's been a
yeah.
wild couple of days. It's been a wild couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Hopefully next year is a little bit more peaceful, and that is where we will find you guys because our next episode will be in the new year,
Yeah.
and we will start the next year by talking about uh, a series of movies that I
Oh.
find to be absolutely amazing, and
Hmm.
we're gonna have guests on or try to have guests on for each of these episodes. But yeah, we're gonna have a little bonus episode coming up after this one, but
Yeah.
our next official full-length episode is going to be in January, and it's going to be about the Mad Max series. So we're going to do
Oh.
Mad Max 1, Mad Max 2, Mad Max 3, Beyond Thunderdome, and then once we get Beyond Thunderdome, we're going to talk about Fury Road and then talk about the one that came out last year, which I still have not watched.
I've seen them, well, because Mad Max, you know, full disclosure, my absolute favorite series of movies
Same,
at all.
same.
Yeah, like
I intentionally have not watched the newest one because I knew we were going to be doing this podcast and I wanted to
uh
like save it to get a genuine like I
yeah.
haven't watched any YouTube series about it. I have not watched any reviews. I've
Hmm.
seen the general consensus that some people didn't like it. Cool. I also saw
Oh,
that it got nominated for a bunch of Oscars and awards and shit. So
yeah.
I've
Well,
seen some
and I
people say it's good, some people disappointed.
I had a
I
hard time
have
keeping
not watched
myself
it yet.
away from it because I was just always going to watch it. So once I had the
I
ability to,
I thought about it, and then when I realized that there were like 5 weeks in January, and there, we had 5 episodes, and I was like, seems like this is perfect, right? Let's
yeah,
do Mad Max. So that is going to be our
awesome.
next official episode, and we will be joined on episode 1 as we talk about Mad Max with a good old friend of ours. We last visited him not too long ago
Yeah,
when we let's see, when we last encountered our good old friend Dominic in the Wasteland. We were talking about Neon City.
that's right.
That's where we left him off. So we will pick him up on our caravan in the Wasteland as
So we'll,
we drive him to the depths of Australia to talk about the post-apocalyptic outback.
yeah, we'll take him from the Mad Max inspired wagon train movie
Uh-huh.
and take him to the actual Mad Max.
Hell yeah, exactly. So come along for that. We'll see you guys for a bonus episode coming up for the new year that we're about to record in just a minute. And
Yeah,
see you guys. Peace.
see ya.